I've made it one of my top priorities to address our broken mental health system. When you look at our corrections budget right now, we incarcerate nearly 40,000 people to the tune of $2 billion per year. But what a lot of people don't know is the fact that nearly a quarter of our prison population suffers from mental illness. And when they do, the cost of that inmate goes from $38,000 per year to well over $100,000 per year. And what I have seen in my experience as a prosecutor and working in the legislature is that many of these people that suffer from mental illness, they don't belong in prison. We need to get them the help that they need before they commit that violent crime. So addressing our broken mental health system is a top priority for me as the state's next Attorney General. Number two, when I was a prosecutor, we started an elder abuse task force. This task force, they prosecuted elder abuse crimes all day. We've got an aging population right now, and I want to see something like this go statewide. I believe government's number one duty is to protect our people, particularly those that are most vulnerable. So I'd like to start an elder abuse task force within the Attorney General's office. And then third, a public integrity unit that would be expanded to hold government accountable. We need to appoint a state integrity officer within that office to make certain that if local governments are violating FOIA or the Open Meetings Act, or if we've got a department head that isn't properly doing their job, we've got something within the Attorney General's office to hold government accountable. So when I became Speaker of the House, again, this was a top priority for me, and I appointed a bipartisan task force, 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats, to go out and find many of the answers to the questions that we had to address our broken mental health system. And they came back to me with a report with nearly 85 recommendations and ideas. And we've gotten to work to help those that are suffering from mental illness. For instance, right now in the state of Michigan, when somebody is being paroled, there is no requirement that they actually have a mental health screening. We passed legislation to ensure that that happens, so that if somebody is going to be put out on the streets, that they've got the help that they need so that they're not out hurting somebody or committing a violent crime. We passed legislation to get our local teachers the education and the training that they need to identify if they've got a student suffering from mental illness. We passed legislation to create a database within the state of Michigan that would help people find hospital beds available if they're suffering from mental illness or they have a family member that's suffering. So we've gotten to work on this issue, and there's a lot of work to do ahead, and I look forward to doing that as the state's next Attorney General. Well, I think when you look at mental health and you look at this opioid crisis, they are essentially one and the same. Somebody that has a substance abuse problem, you can tie that in with a mental health issue. And one of the things that I would like to see us do here in the state of Michigan is to continue to expand mental health courts, drug courts, veterans courts, all of these treatment courts. They have been a huge success. But when I talk to local prosecutors, particularly here in the Upper Peninsula, many of these prosecutors, they are very short-staffed. In fact, some of them, they are the only prosecutor in the entire county. They don't have an assistant. It's very difficult for them to ensure that these treatment courts are being implemented. As the state's next Attorney General and head of the state's largest law firm, I want to make certain that there's better collaboration. I want to help these local prosecutors to expand these treatment courts to get people the help that they need. There are tens of thousands of residents here in the Upper Peninsula that depend on the propane that comes through that line to heat their homes. I would never support a plan that's going to leave tens of thousands of citizens here in the Upper Peninsula without the ability to heat their homes. So what I've done is I've gone to the table, I've worked with the governor, and we put a plan in place to build a tunnel to properly store this line to ensure that our Great Lakes are protected, but also to make certain that the citizens and the residents here in the Upper Peninsula can continue to heat their homes. That's what's important. Combating violent crime has to be a top priority for the state's next Attorney General. As a former prosecutor, I've done that. And we need to make certain that the Attorney General's office is collaborating better with our local prosecutors. Again, many of these local prosecutors, they simply don't have the bodies or the staff that they need within their office. They need to make certain that they can come to the Attorney General's office for help. I recently spoke to the Schoolcraft County prosecutor, and he had a triple homicide within his county over the past during the past couple years. I want to make certain that somebody like him knows that there's a place that he can come to for help or to get guidance, or that we can come in and help him with his office situation in the event that he has a triple homicide, and that's what he has to focus his efforts on for several weeks. So again, combating violent crime has to be a top priority for the state's next Attorney General. I believe it starts with collaborating with our local prosecutors. As a former prosecutor, that's what I intend to do.